Soda from pine needles? Yes, you can. We'll show you how today. Well, our weather here is still kind of cold. Temperatures have been in the upper 30s, low 40s, and it's been raining and raining and raining. So today we had a little break in the rain and I decided to do something fun. We went out and I collected some pine needles in my foraging pouch. It's not quite time yet for pine tips to be coming out in our area, which I normally collect for a medicinal use, and I'll make sure I leave a link to that video in the description. But I was able to find some nice green pine that I could cut, collect, and bring in so that today we can make a carbonated drink that makes a great soda substitute. So now that I have these collected, my next step is going to be to take these off the stem. I'm just putting them in a colander. We're gonna give them a rinse and then we're gonna dry them. But the first thing you might be wondering is why would we even want to attempt to make a soda substitute using pine? Now, pine is a great vitamin C supplement. We use this for our medicinal teas and it's great. Doesn't matter what time of year, always getting a little additional boost to your immune system. So that's a good reason. Now the flavor on this is gonna be kind of citrusy. So something along the lines of like a Sprite or a 7-Up or whatever kind of a citrusy carbonated drink you might have where you live. So once I get these all plucked off the stems and rinsed and dried, I'll be back to show you what our next step is. Now that I have these rinsed, there's a couple things I just wanted to make sure that I mentioned. Anytime you're collecting anything outdoors, always make sure you're familiar with the area that it's coming from. We collected these from our own property, so I know that they're safe to use. But if you're going out collecting, always know that it's an area that isn't being sprayed because you don't want to add chemicals into anything that you're making. And just as a side note, your fingers will get very sticky and black. So you have to be aware of that or throw gloves on if that does bother you. It doesn't bother me at all. So our next step, I'm using 8-ounce bottles. These are the flip top bottles. Close one up. It's got the little flip piece on the side. These are what we use when we're making any kind of extracts, like a vanilla extract, a mint extract. So I happen to have some of these on hand. So the amounts that I'm going to be using are going to be based on an 8-ounce jar. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take our pine needles and we are going to stuff our jar as much as we can with these, which with the narrow top, I'm sure is going to be a lot of fun to get those in there. But we're going to shove in what we can. And of course, this is going to be a fun process. So let's see what we can do here. And we're going to get this jar as full as we can with our pine needles. And as soon as I have this jar full, as I'm fighting with my pine needles, I'll be right back to give you the next ingredient. Okay, now I have all my pine in the jar. The next thing to do is to add your sweetener and your water. Now I'm going to be doing 3 different types of sweeteners. I'm going to do a bottle of each. One is going to be with maple syrup, one is going to be with a standard sugar, and another one is going to be with honey. And then we're going to taste test and see which one we prefer. Now, as I said, I'm using an 8-ounce bottle and I'm going to be filling it up to within an inch or 2 of the top because you want to make sure you leave a 1 to 2 inch space for while this carbonation is building up. So I'm going to start with the sugar and then I'm going to do the maple syrup and the honey and we're going to get each one done. Now for an 8-ounce bottle, I'm using 1 tablespoon of sugar, and what that's going to do is that is going to activate the natural yeast that is on the pine needles. Rinsing them off doesn't affect that, but we're going to do that, and then we're just going to take our water and we're going to put it into the jar. Gonna make sure we leave ourselves an inch or 2, a little bit more, an inch or 2 at the top. We're going to close it up and seal it. I'm going to give it a shake to make sure I get that all mixed well together so that there's no sweetener sitting on the bottom of the jar. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put this in a warm spot for the next 4 to 5 days. It will process quicker if it's warm. Some people like to put it on a sunny windowsill. Make sure, depending on the type of jar you're using, some people say to burp it every couple of days. Other people say just leave it as it is because you don't want to lose any of that carbonation. I'd say based on the type of jar you're using, that's kind of up to you. Now, let me get these other 2 done and I'll be right back. So this one is going to have a tablespoon of maple syrup, and then we're going to fill it with water. Now, I'm going to shake this once I have it filled with water, but you don't want to shake it anymore during that process. You want to just let it sit. So you only want to shake it once because you don't want to cause so much pressure that it's going to cause the top of your jar to blow off. So we'll get that in. We'll get this shaken up, and then we'll move on to our honey. All right, so we're going to put our tablespoon of honey in the last jar. And this will take just a little bit longer to get down there. Don't want to lose any of that awesomeness. I'm just going to pour the water over my tablespoon so I can get a little more of that honey into the jar. We want to keep as much as we can. Now I've got the jars labeled so I can remember which one is which, because once it's mixed in, it's very hard to tell. Okay, so we've got that one done. Just gonna take my little funnel out, cover this one as well, give this one a shake. This one says honey on the front. I wanna make sure it's not stuck at the bottom. There we go. And I'm just gonna put these in a warm spot, and I'll be back in about 5 days and we'll see how they're doing. As usual in our house, 5 days turned into 7, but I'm back with our pine needle soda, and we're gonna open these and we're going to see which is our favorite. We have our sugar, our maple syrup, and our honey, and we're gonna see which sweetener we like better. We're gonna see if one has a little more fizz over another, and let's get a look and see how these came out. All right, we're gonna start with the sugar, and I'm gonna try to be careful because I don't know how much force is gonna be behind this. So let's, woo! Well, there's definitely a lot of carbonation behind this one. So thank you, Steve. So let me clean this mess up and I'll be right back and we'll open the other 2. Well, now that I got that mess cleaned up, let's open the other 2 jars. And I put a mat down just in case. I'm actually gonna move this one over a little bit out of the way. Put this right in the middle. Hopefully I'll make a little less mess. Now this is why 4 to 5 days should be kind of the limit on this. Keeping this pressed down for a minute to see if I can get the carbonation to go down. It's kind of like if you shook a can or bottle of soda and then opened it. You can see there's a lot of, even holding the top of this down, it's making its way out. So it doesn't seem to have been a difference between the sugar and the maple syrup. If I take this off, there we go. Carbonation success. All right, let's try the last one, see if we have the same result. And yep, there it goes. The same carbonation. I'm just holding this so it doesn't spray all over the room like the first one. Big thank you to Steve for helping me get that mess cleaned up. And there we go. All right. So plenty of carbonation. So the next step, I'm gonna grab Steve and we're gonna pour some of this into glasses for each of us. We're gonna do a taste test and see which we like best. All right, well, I got us each a small glass. We're gonna start with the sugar. And now you can strain these out using a strainer or cheesecloth. I'm just gonna pour careful I'm just going to pour a little bit into each glass so we can give it a try.
Yep. Now these are alcohol-free. We're using shot glasses just as sample glasses, but if you want to ferment this, that's also possible. Okay. Kind of like a very mild Sprite.
Yeah, it's not an overpowering flavor, but you can taste a little bit of that citrus and the carbonation. It's actually really good. So, all right, let's try the maple syrup one. See if we notice a difference in the flavor. Thank you. And we'll see. I don't know which one Steve thought would be his favorite.
Oh, I know I'm going to like the maple syrup the best.
There is a little difference in the flavor. You don't really taste the maple syrup. It's not like an overwhelming flavor.
It's subtle, but it's there.
It's good. Now
Okay.
for the last one, let's try the honey and see if we notice a difference with this one. Now I see a difference in the color with the honey one. It's a little more brown.
Well, like golden.
Or golden.
Kind of the color of like 7-Up.
Yeah.
And it tastes like 7-Up.
Yeah, to me it tastes almost like a cross between a ginger ale and a 7-Up.
Yeah, kind of like a ginger ale.
Yeah, it's very good. A great way to make a soda or a pop that you can enjoy, that doesn't have all the chemicals in it from the store. You can use natural sweeteners so you're not bulking up on sugar. And it just gives you an option, something else to do with those awesome pine needles that you can collect. And you know, for us, it's just another thing we can make at any time of year.
Right, and you can use bigger bottles if you want to make a bigger batch. We used the smaller bottles this time just so we could experiment with different flavors. But it only takes 5 days, not 7. 5 days to make homemade soda, and you know everything that's in it as far as ingredients.
Yep. Yeah, so I'm going to say my favorite, I think, is the honey.
Actually, I'm going to change my favorite from maple syrup to honey. I did like the honey.
Yeah, so something that it's great to have in your little book of things that you can do with things that you can forage and collect. And I'll make sure to leave a link to our Amazon store if you're interested in any of the items that we used in this video. If you have any questions about what else we do with pine needles, or maybe adding something else into this, now you could always add a squirt of lemon or lime or something into it when it's done with the carbonation to add to the flavor. Make sure you leave us a comment. Let us know what you thought. See if you have any great ideas. Do you make pop using something else? We'd love to hear from you.
Yep. Another thing that you can use would be like birch. I have a brown birch in the backyard that needs to come down. Normally we break off the small saplings and use those for like toasting marshmallows and things like that. Or anything that you're going to cook on a fire, hot dogs or whatever. It adds a nice flavor and it's not poisonous. But you can also make birch beer from that. And then you can take the birch beer. It doesn't have a natural yeast like the pine needles do. So you'd have to use a little bit of yeast, but you can make carbonated birch beer or skip the yeast and make an uncarbonated birch beer. Marilyn's going for another shot
Of our honey flavored one.
Yeah.
So while we enjoy our soda, everybody have an awesome one. And until next time, see you soon.
See ya.